This is crime scene investigator Chris G, leading you under the police tape and into a crime scene. Join me as we discuss the ever-changing world of forensic science. Put on your PPE, ready your fingerprint brushes, and experience the drama of a crime scene. Hi everyone, it's Chris here, and thank you for tuning into my second podcast. I've had a lot of nice comments from my first podcast with Peter James. If you haven't listened to it already, then do check it out. He's a fantastic man, a fantastic author, and I had a really interesting chat with him. And yeah, thanks again for all your excellent comments. I hope you're looking forward to this podcast as well. And this week I'm going to be talking about how I became a crime scene investigator. I'm also joined by my colleague Adam. He is a crime scene investigator as well. He's been doing it a similar sort of time than I have, and I'm going to jump right in and ask him some questions to start with, which will really set the scene and define him as a crime scene investigator and as a person. And then once I've asked him the questions, I'll look at how we both became crime scene investigators and maybe the tips and hints we can give you as well. So without further ado, I've always wondered what that saying actually means. Has anyone actually got ado? Does anyone need further ado? I'm not quite sure. So anyway, let's crack on and we'll meet Adam. Adam is like a Trojan horse when it comes to the way you work. He is a machine. I'm going to ask Adam 3 questions, and this kind of sums up Adam in a nutshell. So, Adam, what's the longest shift you've ever worked?
I think that was 52 hours
52
straight up in the end.
Hours.
Yeah, not stopping. That was quite an intense. I mean, by the end, I've got to say, I was seeing things. You know, when you're so tired, you start to hallucinate. Yeah. My desk was picking itself up and crawling off. I didn't know if I was coming or going. I'll never do that again. I've got to say, I got my badge of honour. And never again.
I've just got that image of, isn't it on The Simpsons where Homer falls asleep in his car and then the car kind of drifts up into the sky?
That is exactly it. Yes, I parked up at the station with, somebody's postbox and fence and cat sprayed across in front of me, the van. Yeah, that was it.
Oh dear. So 52 hours. That's over 2 days that you were working from start to finish. God,
yeah, that
is crazy.
Wouldn't recommend it.
No. Next question. What's the most amount of exhibits you've seized for one case?
I've been thinking about this, and I'm trying to remember. I think it was getting on for about 1,000 in the end.
Exhibits.
I know it was one of those jobs where you end up seizing everything and doing every little thing. I mean, I was fibre taping every corner in an entire house, and just swabbing everything. So by the end, I think we were looking on for about 1,000 exhibits.
Wow. And you probably left behind a pristine house as well.
It was a lot cleaner than we arrived. Yeah. That's for sure.
God blimey. It can get quite tedious, the work that we do. But of course, you only get one shot at a crime scene, so you could walk in there, and when you walk out, you can never walk back in again. So everything's got to be collected.
Yeah, you never know what the suspect is going to say later on as well. You arrest somebody 2 weeks down the line, you just have no idea if they're going to come out with the sort of story you want or get very creative.
Yeah.
You've got to. It's like, I always say it's like chess. You've got to think 5-10 steps ahead, and sometimes that means just seizing and just ridiculous amount of stuff.
Yeah. And
I mean, you must have seized a fair amount in your time, Chris.
Oh yeah, I've seized a fair amount. I think most I've done is about just over 300 exhibits. But yeah, that is one lengthy statement at the end of it. Just 300, so 1,000. That must be going on for quite a few pages.
Yeah, that was. It made for great reading. Oh, yeah. Put the jury to sleep.
Yeah, see, that's the trouble. Like our work can be so interesting, but when you are just sat there in the the witness stand or you're a juror and you're hearing our statement. It's I sees this, I sees that, then went on to sees this and then sees that. And when
Yeah.
you're doing that 1,000 times, yeah, it's not quite like the
No,
fast-paced
I know. I
TV
wish it
show.
was.
Yeah. Right. So next question: what drives you to work so hard?
I mean, that's a hard question to answer, isn't it? I think it's multiple things. I mean, I definitely want to say, I am very passionate about my job, and I like to catch bad guys. It's what I signed up for. And putting bad guys away is a very rewarding thing. But I mean, I think it's a bit cliche. I think, and I think part of me, to be honest, is also I'm highly competitive. I really, really want to do well. I really want to beat everybody, beat the bad guys. So yeah, I think there's just some kind of element of that competitive nature that just thinks, well, just keep going, keep finding that next gear to keep pounding on and keep thinking 5 steps ahead and thinking faster. Yeah, so it's not. I'd love to say it's that I'm super passionate about making community safer, and I am definitely. But it's when you've done your 50th hour of a shift, you need that extra something just to kind of kick on and keep going. And I think that for me, it's that competitive nature to just keep doing better.
Yeah.
I think that helps.
I think that competitive nature is probably what got you working that 52nd hour. That 51st hour, maybe the bad guy had one up on you, but you weren't going to let that happen. You're going to see it through the 52nd hour.
It sounds tough. I think that's true. I think when you're knackered and you're hungry and you're on your 5th Red Bull, you've got to find someone else to just kind of keep you motivated and keep you going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, for me, it's that competitive. I mean, what about you, Chris? What fires you up, mate?
Oh, I think it's a privilege to kind of walk into a crime scene. It could be, say, someone's house if they've been burgled, or it could be like a murder scene or a sexual offence scene, and I find it a privilege to be there, be the person that, say, people are looking to for those answers, and to be able to give them some answers. I mean, it doesn't work like that every single time. So it's not like the TV shows where they walk in and they've solved it within 40 minutes, excluding adverts. Sometimes it's just we can do our best, but yeah, sometimes they'll get away from us. But yeah, I think that's what I promise people when I walk into, say, their home or a crime scene. I promise myself that I won't solve this case, but what I will do is do my very best to solve the case. And I think that's the best that I can do, really.
I think that's the answer I should have given. That was a textbook cracking answer.
It's like it's been rehearsed, isn't it?
Oh, well, I mean, tell you what, whoever gets to listen to this, they're going to listen to me and think, what a competitive bit of a knob, and they're going to listen to you and think, now that's the next leader of our police force. There, that's what they'll come away.
They're going to think this guy never had any fun at school. He never had a detention. And you know what? They'd be right. Actually, I did tell a lie. I had one detention, but the teacher let me go home early because I helped her clear up the classroom.
God. Oh dear. What?
So, yeah. Alright, welcome back everyone. So the first question you're probably thinking is the role of a crime scene investigator the right job for you? I'll pass you over to Adam, and he will talk about the difficulties that crime scene investigators have, the kind of qualities that you might need to show, and the things you need to prepare yourself for. So Adam, take it away.
So the first thing you're going to need to ask yourself, guys, is: are you interested in lab work, or are you looking for field work? So two very different kind of forensic sides of the same coin, as it were. Obviously, we're more of the experts and the field side of work, but we work very closely with lab-based. So yeah, ask yourselves: do I want to be out and about every day doing hands-on, or do I want to be in the lab analysing and processing the evidence that's coming into me? Dependent on those decisions, they don't necessarily influence your program of decisions of like what kind of courses I want to take too much, but it would certainly be important for your mindset of where you think you want to go and how you want to approach. So have that conversation with yourself first of all and think, well, what sort of job do I want to do? First things first, I think no matter which department you work in, especially if you're field work, there are some real pros, there's some real cons, but be prepared for a lot of hard work. The hours can be extraordinarily long. You're going to be in some pretty grim environments possibly. But on the same time, flip side, you can be in some amazing environments. I've certainly been places that no member of the public will ever get to see, premises of royalty, that, in their bedroom, no member of the public's ever going to see that. I've seen the view from Lord and Ladies' chambers, it's amazing. And that's all down to this kind of job. So prepared for long hours, but it has positives as well. It can be quite an antisocial job as well. If you're going to be working for many police forces, they introduce a shift pattern. So, you'll either be working early, late, through the night on calls. And it can be a real pain sometimes if you've got a social life. All your friends are going to be booking in their parties and meeting up last minute for beers and drinks. And, you're not going to be able to always be there, unfortunately. So be prepared for a little bit of an antisocial role. But it does make your rest days far more glorious because you appreciate them far more, I personally think. But pros, you're going to have some great teamwork and you're going to make some amazing friends. Because you're in such a hard environment, dealing with sometimes the worst society has, you'll bond with your colleagues and teammates that you work with in a way that most normal members of the public don't really appreciate. I've certainly got some of my best friends in work. And some of the kind of the close bonds that we have are far more different from my friends outside of work as well.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Sorry, Chris, I wasn't including you.
Oh.
No. And I think it's once in a life experience is what you'll get out of working in this field. If you are looking for that sort of once in a lifetime story, once in a lifetime opportunity to change society. I think that's a really important thing to highlight on. If you wanted to do this job for money, probably don't. You don't come into this job for making big bucks because we're public sector and that's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
The pay's not terrible, don't get me wrong. You can live very comfortably. But I think what your primary driving factor needs to be is wanting to make your community and your society a better place to be. And I don't think many jobs out there really provide that other than, this sort of thing. And your emergency services, that sort of thing. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, I love all those things and I'm not scared of a bit of hard work and long hours, then you're probably already on the right track for finding the right job for you.
Yeah, and I think like one of the biggest shocks to people, say coming out of university, where they've got this very kind of big social group, where they'll be out, say, at the weekends and things. Is that you're going from that and then you're going on to this shift pattern, and it could be that you've got to travel for your job as well, and that can be a bit of a kind of culture shock to them, really. So I'd say just prepare yourself for like a big kind of a change in the way your kind of life pans out and what you do day to day, week to week.
I think some of our colleagues have loads of friends from uni. I don't know how some of them do it. Be organised. I think that's it.
Yeah.
One of the lasses who's got like 1,000,001 friends, she has a diary. She's constantly planning ahead. I'm not organised enough. I can't even organise what I'm having for lunch, let alone something that far in advance. But if you want a social life, like a really intense social life, you can do it. You just got to be a bit more organised, I think. Apart from when you get called out at like 3 a.m, and then you've got to kind of do your day's shift, and then get home, and then people are like, do you want to still meet up? And you're like, I've not slept for like 48 hours. No.
The party might still be going after you've finished your call out. Who knows?
That's true. Maybe you can rock up all ready to ready to go. Yeah. There's pros and cons with any job. I think the types of pros being a police officer or in any emergency services, or specifically forensics, gives you is you're going to do bits and pieces, things that no member of the public or no other business can offer you. This is an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we touched upon like the lab work versus the field work. Now, I I think I'll speak for you as well. I could never work in a lab. I think I would get a bit too bored. But then that's not to say that lab work isn't boring. It is still such an important part of forensic science. And like when I'm stood there in the pouring rain at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I've got trying to fingerprint something, and the wind is just blowing the powder all in my face, and then I think about that person in their ISO lab that is absolutely spotless because the accreditation means it's got to be. I think, should I have chosen to work in a lab? So yeah, there are pros and cons both sides, I think, whether you want to work on the field or in a lab. Just ask yourself what you prefer, really. Are you more of an inside person or more of an outside person?
I am totally an outside person. Growing up, when I went to college, and we could probably touch on this later, I did one of these insights tests. Like you're at A levels, and you fill out like 150 questions, and it tells you what sort of job you would like moving forward. And I would do well in administration, office-based sort of roles. I can't think of anything bloody worse for me. I'll be climbing the walls in 30 seconds. I've got to be always doing something outdoors, getting in, stuck in the thick of it. That's just not who I am. I'm not a lab type person. But I mean, I've done tours of the labs. I've been up and visited some of the largest forensic providers, and I mean, their labs are amazing, and the scientists are outstanding, world class. The stuff they can do is just insane, and I'm only full of admiration. It's just I couldn't be indoors for that long. I think it takes that sort of person. Somebody's going to be listening to this and go, well, I'd hate to go outside all that time. Are you joking? Perfect. You're the person that I want to be telling me, what my blood is coming back to, who does it belong to, profile it for me, give me some ancestry history on that blood. Thank you very much. But yeah, I just, it's not for me. I'm an outdoors in the mud, dirt and down and dirty.
So after that test, was that like a turning point in your life? Was that the kind of like moments you have in films where they suddenly realise what they're meant to do?
No. No. We'll talk about kind of what our career path was, and you'll kind of find out mine was a little bit more haphazard than maybe some people would like. I mean, I read that, and the thing I took away from that primarily was these tests are crap. They can kind of give you an idea what's out there, but I mean, personally, when I was growing up, I found my careers section was really inadequate. And one of the things I'd love to do is talk to you guys who are listening and kind of give you some careers advice from a forensic perspective, because mine was so poor. Nobody ever turned around and said these sort of jobs are out there. Anybody can do this. So that was what I took away from that, was my careers teacher, or I won't blame the teacher, but the lesson was just naff. It really was naff. That's what I took away from that.
Yeah. Because I mean, I've been to schools before, I'm sure you have, and I think it inspires the kids, doesn't it? Not just that, but you can see on the teachers' faces that they're really interested. I think, God, if the teachers are interested, then the kids must be. And it's just knowing that jobs are out here, and for the kids to realise that actually if we knuckle down and work hard, this is the end result, this is what we can do. And I think sometimes kids need that, don't they? Because you do your exams and you think, what are all these for? But if you can actually go in there and tell kids that, if you get an A, B, C or whatever in your GCSEs, this will put you on the path to doing a job like this.
I did a thing with a local school near us. I said local school down the road, and the school did all these kind of like every year goes off on a trip and does something fancy and wonderful, and all the children that were, let's say, misbehaving weren't allowed to go on these trips because they were naughty children. These were sort of kids that were just starting to come to police attention, and we put together a little kind of engagement project so we can go and see them, and went down. And when we first met these kids, they pretty much were like, yeah, whatever, copper, effing pig, whatever, mate. And you just you go, all right, yeah, it's very original. Let's just roll with it. And then I got them all doing like fingerprinting, making a mess. I mean, we completely caked the side of this school, like massive glass, 20-foot massive glass walls. Just caked it in fingerprint powder. It was great. I loved it. But while they're having fun, they've all come away going, and then they start asking like questions about, well, is that a fingerprint? Okay, well, how do you do it? What does your job entail? And away we went. I've got to say, by the end of the day, 3 of the naughtiest kids came up to me and said, is it too late for me to become a crime scene investigator? I mean, whether or not 6 months down the line they go, I'm not interested anymore, they briefly had that engagement and kind of realised, well, actually, I'm capable of doing this, and they are. Anybody can. And it gives kids that opportunity to see there's different avenues to take. It's not all about wearing the black police uniform and catching bad guys. It's a different way to it. And they had a great time. So, yeah, I think... there's so many ways to inspire.
I mean, I think, because these kids, I'm no child psychologist, but these kids might have just been bored, and you've given them something that's really, really interesting, that they're thinking, oh, actually, yeah, if I spend my life doing this, then, yeah, I'm going to be, my life's going to be quite fulfilled, really, and that's what I love about this job as well, is that, yeah, no 2 days are the same. It's problem solving. You're finding things that, say, you can't see with the naked eye sometimes, and yeah, it is pretty exciting. I think, yeah, maybe kids just need to see more jobs that are like that out there.
Yeah, not everything's educational and written down and ABC. Sometimes it's hands-on and a bit of fun, and you get paid to do it. Whee! What's not to like?
There's a bonus, isn't it? So we'll move on to like what grades you need and things like that, and say the GCSEs that you can take. Now it's been a little while since I've been at school, but I know that there was a double award science when I was there. Was there like a triple award science? Was it still double?
I haven't got a clue. And what you're saying, GCSEs. I don't even know GCSEs anymore, mate.
Oh, they're not. They're like, rather than ABCs, isn't it like 1, 2, 3?
It's number system now.
Yeah. So you can't get like a big fat F on your on your report.
You got Fs?
No.
I got U's. I can spell fudge. I'm joking.
Oh dear. But yeah, so yeah, like the kind of GCSEs or the equivalent GCSEs that you will need to do our job are maths, English, and science. Obviously, you use like that scientific part of your brain quite a lot. English, you'll use that every day in your report writing, your communication, and maths. Believe it or not, you need to use maths quite a bit, mostly to work out the mileage in the vehicle logbooks.
It's to add up measurements. That's what when you're measuring something from a wall and you go, I've got a really short tape measure. So you have to start adding like 5 metres plus 2 metres. That's normally where I start having to engage my maths.
But what I love teaching kids about is bloodstain pattern analysis and the use of trigonometry for bloodstain pattern analysis. Because like you will be there in your maths class, and I remember being sat there and working out like the angle of the corner of a triangle, or the distance when you've got 2 angles or something like that. And I just remember being sat there thinking, when on earth am I ever going to need to know the angle of this triangle? Like, the only time I can think of it is someone comes up to me with a gun and says, quick, work out the angle of this triangle, otherwise you're going to get it. That's the only thing that I could think of. But then when I started learning about bloodstain pattern analysis, I then realised that you can work out the angle at which a bloodstain has impacted by measuring the bloodstain, and then there's a trigonomic, is that the word? Trigonomic equation?
I don't know, Chris, you're the BPA expert, not me. No.
Well, I'm not an expert in trigonometry.
No, I've seen your maths working out.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't show my workings. Keep that under my up my sleeve. So yeah, you use trigonometry to work out the angle at which a bloodstain has, say, come into contact with the surface, and then you can work out, say, the height that the blood was deposited, And that can be quite crucial, say, if you've got people that are going down, oh, it was self-defense, and then you think, well, actually, the person who was ejecting all this blood from a wound was actually quite low down on the ground, and yeah, it kind of contradicts your version of self-defense. So yeah, when you say that actually learning the angle of a triangle could potentially help convict a murderer or something like that, then kids are a little bit more interested in little triangles.
Very niche subject matter you're trying to push to the kids.
Yeah.
Blood pattern analysis, when you get a bit older, you'll need this. I reckon pretty much every kid would go, blood what?
Yeah. Every kid learns it, and there's probably about 30 of them in the country that BPA experts.
Hey, well, you know what?
Yeah. So like your GCSE courses, I think they're kind of I don't know if they do forensic GCSE courses when you're in school.
They're all pretty set. I mean, every school is going to have a very similar GCSE standard with your 1, 2, 3, 4 grades. I think it's just important to highlight. It is worthwhile really focusing on your sciences, your English, your maths, like we've said. But I think the most important thing is just have fun.
Yeah. At
this stage in your education, it's important to get good grades, of course it is, but it's also important to have a really good time and enjoy learning, and enjoy kind of forming those relationships, because all these extra skills you're learning at school that you might not realise you're learning are going to become really fundamental later on in life, like communication skills or the written word or how you present yourself. All these different things will come in very handy. The best way to do that, have a good time at school and just enjoy every subject. Do your best. And then just focus on making sure you get those English, maths and science grades that you think you need. But also, like, I don't know about you, Chris, when I was doing my GCSEs, I thought I wanted to be initially an architect, then I wanted to be a zoologist, then I wanted to be a marine biologist because I like whales, and then I realised, crikey, you've got to be put 7 years education in to become a vet or whatever it is, and I was like, I'm too impatient to do that. I think I didn't know what I wanted to do at the end of my GCSEs. I don't think many kids do, and I don't think it's bad to kind of finish your GCSEs and not quite really know what education you want to do or what career you want to do 5-10 years down the line. So I don't think for parents listening to this and thinking, Christ, I really want my child to explore this sort of avenue, I don't think they need to panic at all at the moment. Just make sure everybody's doing their best and having a good time doing it.
Yeah, because I always wanted to be a train driver until I found out that they all didn't have faces on. And then
the train,
as in Thomas the Tank. Oh yeah,
that's a whole different kind of thing.
Yeah, that is some sick, twisted version.
Thomas the Tank Engine.
But Thomas the Tank Engine. I used to love Thomas the Tank Engine, so I always wanted to be a train driver. And then now I'm sat here thinking, well, I'd probably double my salary if I kept that dream alive.
I was about to say, you should have definitely. If you're listening to this and you want a good, cushy job, train driver. That's the one we all want to get into.
But going back to what you said before with just enjoying school, I think if you enjoy what you're doing, you do better at it. And I think what you just said is you down to a T, really. I can always see how much you enjoy your job. And how you enjoy, say, helping people, and then you've got that problem of, oh my God, we don't know who this offender is. Adam, can you tell us who it is? And you just always take the bull by its horns, be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And you can just see how much you enjoy it. And I think that's what makes you so good at your job, really.
To be honest, I wasn't smiling after 4 hours in the sweatbox up in the cannabis factory. I think
you're probably drooling, not smiling.
To be honest, it's all a blur. I don't really know what happened. I just came out with lots of evidence and thought, well, winner. I think you're right. I think if you enjoy what you do, you're going to be much better. It's all extrinsic versus intrinsic kind of motivations. And if you can find an intrinsic motivation, one that you're motivated by yourself, science has proven that you'll always do a lot better. Science has proven that you'll get better pay, you'll get a better enjoyment out of life, you're more likely to get promoted. All these positive things are there. So if you can find something amazing, I think a lot of people they don't. I think we're really lucky in that we have found something we can get really excited about, like proper little nerds.
Yeah.
But it does make life a lot easier. Still get excited about going to work. I know that's so cheesy to say, but it is true. And I think I'm super lucky to be able to say that when I look at people like maybe my friends who are kind of like, well, I'll go to work, but I'm not really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the weekend. Whereas I'm like, what's a weekend? I haven't had one of those in about 6 weeks. But that's what, if you find your motivation for something you love, whoever's listening, even if you later on you think I want to do forensics and you change your mind because you find something you love that's different, that's great. I think that's important.
Because I think I always wanted to be like a granddad that has lots of grandkids that just sits them all around and be like, let me tell you some stories about when I was back at work, when I was a younger lad and things. And I've already got plenty of stories, and I'm 30, 32. I'm sure
your problem would be your grandkids go, shut up, Grandad, I don't want to hear this. You told it like 9 times.
Yeah, I want to go back to Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They're all 80, but still interesting.
PlayStation now. Yeah.
My PlayStation 17. Oh dear. So moving on from GCSEs, you've passed your GCSEs. Well done. You've now made the rank of college and A levels. What subjects should people be looking for when they get to A levels? Because now you're making choices, aren't you? So if you don't want to do maths, then you don't have to do maths. But you've got the options. And what should kind of people be choosing?
I think if let's go with the obvious. Things like sciences and maths are always going to be hot topics. They're always going to be. They're going to serve you well in life, whether or not you're going into a degree or you're going straight into employment in an emergency service. They'll always do you really well. They're always sought after. So, we're always going to say a science, any of the 3 sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, maths, is always going to be great. But I think I like variety. I think college offers some wonderfully unique subjects you can learn. If you can find a forensic A level, amazing. That is brilliant, and it's probably going to give you the best insight into whether or not you like a career moving forward. If you finish your A level and you think I love this, then you know where your time is going to be invested. But you finish it and go, maybe it's not for me. Maybe I want to try a different area of science. Then that's a great opportunity. But not everywhere offers forensic, A levels. So they are quite few and far between. But I think variety, something you enjoy, like we're saying, that enjoyment factor, because what you're also looking for is points to get into university. If you want to go to university, you're looking for points. You want to do well, and you're going to do well in a subject that you love. I mean, for my A levels, I did history, art, and what else did I do? Classical civilizations. That was it. My teacher, she'd be like, "Oh, thanks for all that hard work." So, because I thought this time I was going to be an architect, so I did art, 2 histories, 2 different types of history. I thought architecture. That's what I wanted to do. I'm not even close to that now. But I enjoyed it. So as a result, I did better in the subjects, and they gave me points to move forward. Because by the end of my A levels, I actually completely changed my perspective on what I wanted to do. See, I told you earlier, I kept chopping and changing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But also in forensics, I think we're a weird mixed bunch. We know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. And if you start doing, let's say, an A level in art, that's going to serve you brilliantly if you end up doing physics down the line, forensics even down the line, because you're going to do a lot of diagrams, you do a lot of hand drawing, you do a lot of kind of arty-farty stuff. But if you ended up doing, I don't know, dance, that can still have application because you start looking at stride pattern, you start looking at footwear because you're wearing different shoes, and funnily enough, all of a sudden that kind of folds back into the role. And the number of times we're talking to each other and somebody goes, "Oh, I know something like a random fact that I learned at school because I did a random subject." It's amazingly relevant actually. I think just important thing is do something you're passionate about. And again, I think it's important to focus. If you are super focused on I want to do forensics, I think art and science, maths and science are your subjects. But if you weren't 100% sure, I don't think it would be the end of the world if you just found something that you were passionate about and focused on getting a good grade, full stop.
Yeah, I think, in a nutshell, I think, that's pretty much what you should do, really, is not get too perhaps beaten up about, I need to choose the right subjects or anything. Just choose something you enjoy, because then there's more chance that you will pass and succeed at it. And know that whatever kind of subjects you take, it's not going to be too crucial. I mean, if you were to get an A-level in science, that might steer you better than if you were to get an A-level in your example that you used, dance, but it doesn't mean it's the be-all and end-all. And yeah, I think if that, because I mean, if I give you an example of what I took media studies, music, IT and maths with mechanics. So that is a complete mixed bag. And I took all those subjects because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I left school, went to college, and yeah, just didn't have a clue. So I thought I'm going to choose some subjects like IT and maths that could help me down the road, but also choose some subjects that interested me, such as media studies and music. And yeah, I mean, I haven't broken out my saxophone in the office, so that hasn't really helped me with my career. Oh God, I think back to my parents and all that they had to endure when I was learning the saxophone, because yeah, I started watching those YouTube clips of kids that are just picking up instruments for the first time, and I was laughing at them, and then I stopped laughing, and then I realised, oh my God, I was once that kid. My poor parents. And saxophones aren't cheap either, so yeah.
So I did piano, but my parents were smart enough. They bought me the electric piano, so I could put the headphones in.
Yeah.
So all you could hear was the silent pressing of keys, which must have saved them so much pain.
Yeah. If ever your parents meet my parents, don't get them to bring that up, because.
No. Well, now you've told me the saxophone story, I think I know what's going to happen at the Christmas party.
Yeah.
But, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. There you go. That's how it's assisted my my career, playing saxophone at a Christmas party potentially. But yeah, it just goes to show that it doesn't matter what you do. It's more about you gaining that, say, experience, and yeah, everything that you learn at college can be kind of tailored to this, really. Should we move on to the next step, kind of university now?
Yeah, I think before we do, it's important I think we should mention that it used to be that we don't require applicants to have a degree. I think one of the most common questions we got asked is, do I need a degree to do what you do? Some forces are still the way we used to be. So we used to say you don't need a degree because we teach you everything you need to know. And actually you'll earn your degree through the job, in forensics. But I think now the quality of applicant and the number of applicants we get now, and the way modern policing is pushing, we're now pushing towards needing that higher caliber of learner. And as a result, we now require you to have a degree. So that doesn't mean, we're talking from the capacity of the counties that we work for, and no. But there are, I know, still some counties out there that don't require you to have a degree to join. It just might influence the way that they expect you to learn. So you might have to do an extra 2 weeks course just to fill the gap or anything like that. So don't be completely put off if you go, I haven't got a degree, but all I want to do is forensics. Contact your local counties. Look further afield. Ask them, because some don't. But we'll carry on in the way that we do, and that we need you to have a degree. So we'll chat about that. But I just thought it's probably important, just quickly throwing that out there.
Yeah, and I guess it's best for these students to say contact maybe their local force and just see their requirements. If they're umming and ahhing on whether or not to go for a degree, and they're set on this as the career of their choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, as well, we're assuming that we are talking about younger applicants, for example, people who have just come out of college. If you're an old applicant, if you are slightly more mature and you have much more work experience and life experience, that can fill the gap between the requirement for a degree. So if, for example, if you have a plethora of experience dealing with, for an example, a science background. So let's say you were a pharmacist, for example. That may very well give you the experience that we require to fill the gap for the degree. It's just about building the bridge between, being a young individual who doesn't have a huge amount of life experience and needing that experience. So we use a degree to fill that gap, but also obviously life will give you that experience as well. So if you are an older listener as well, I say older, that sounds so horrible. If you are a more experienced listener,
Love it. Yeah.
I would say, again, don't think, crikey, have I got to now sign up for a degree? That's 3 years of my life, or crikey.
Yeah.
Don't worry too much. Think about, what you've learned and what you've done. And I imagine some of the experiences that you have just from living will fill the criteria that we need.
Yeah.
So again, it's about reach out, have a chat with the careers advice from each of your forces and ask.
Because I remember I was giving someone some advice. I think they were going for a job for our forensic recovery unit, which is your more kind of like lab-based work. And she said, I don't really have much of a sciencey background, and this is asking me for investigative skills. And I'm not coming from a police background, so I've never investigated like crimes or anything like that. I said to her, but have you investigated anything? Like, have you ever had to, say, investigate a member of staff? Maybe they weren't doing something to your, like the equivalent of our code of ethics. Were they misbehaving or anything like that you've then had to, say, get evidence for? And I think that prompted her to say, oh, actually, you've made me think of an actual time where I've got an example for like her investigative skills. So it doesn't have to be sort of police orientated, or you don't have to come from a forensic science background like you said. You've just got to have those skills that are easily transferable, whether or not that is, say, from a university course, or if you're a little bit more experienced, that's just from your general life experience or work experience that you've had. So don't think the doors are closed to you just because you haven't got a, say, forensic degree or degree or anything like that. Yeah. So I've had the question, what degree do I need to take? Should I take a forensic science degree? And I sometimes say to people, if you know that it's definitely 100% what you want to do, then do that degree. What you could consider is that you come out of university with, say, all your peers, you've all got this forensic science degree, and you're all fighting for, say, 1 or 2 jobs or something like that. It is quite a niche subject, whereas if you were to take, say, a science at university and then maybe do a master's in forensic science, something like that, I think that might give you a few more doors open at the end of it. But what do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I think, if you're going to do a degree, understand that there are other aspects that we'll talk about in a minute that you still need. A lot of people now have degrees. Forensics is a sexy subject, so a lot of people are taking the course. And like you said, you've got 200 people in your class. You're all graduating with the same degree, and then you're all going to try and apply for, let's say, 5 jobs. Somebody's going to miss out. So how do you kind of make yourself better or more appealing to your employer? And I think one of the most important things is look at the type of degree you're doing, and look at what they offer. A lot of the degrees, pretty much every uni now supplies degrees, and a lot of them are brilliant degrees. But everybody seems to do something slightly different. And look for the ones that offer you something that's more appealing to you, but also more relevant to the type of field you're looking for. So if you want to be a lab-based forensic scientist, look for a degree that gives you more opportunities to do first-hand lab-based work. A lot will give you kind of opportunity to do some work experience. Some have some incredible facilities where you can actually do it yourself. With my degree, I went to Portsmouth. They have their own forensic crime scene house, so I was able to do first-hand work on a crime scene. Look for something that offers you that opportunity, not just learning from a textbook or from your professor. Look for something that gives you that opportunity to do something a little bit more unique, a little bit more different from everybody else, and allow you to do that first-hand work. And as well, look at the type of lecturers they're going to get in. Look at the type of people they get in. Are they all going to be done by campus staff, or do they get experts in their field? Do they get crime scene investigators to come in and give first-hand explanations about what the job entails, how it's done, life experience stories, that unique insight into the world that gives you that something special that's different from everybody else. So take time, look at the courses, look at what's right for you. People travel, very, very far to go to university these days. It's not like you're stuck looking at the one in the same county. And let's be honest, we all want to get away from our parents. So, furthest away possible, just close enough that when you run out of money or washing, you can just
That's right, yeah.
Get something home fairly easily. Unless you're hardcore, then you go to Glasgow or something, complete opposite end of the country. So, I think just take a bit of time and look at what they're offering. Everybody's offering something. So look at the different modules and find something that appeals to you. And go from there, really. I think is one of the first starting things. But it doesn't have to, if you're sitting there going, well, I've got a degree, but my degree's in finance, that's fine. We're looking for a degree. Having a degree in forensics gives you that slight upper hand, definitely, because you have that more insight, that slightly different understanding. But if you've got a degree in finance, it's still a degree. It shows you that you have that high level of ability of learning. So don't be put off at all by it. Just start looking at kind of what other life experience have I got that I can offer that makes me that little bit more standing out of the crowd.
So I think when people are, say, students are looking around universities, or if they have like those, I remember those days where all the universities would come round and you'd have like stalls for each university and you go around and you ask them stuff. What kind of questions should students be asking these universities?
I think the first thing is I'd ask is literally call them out. What are you doing that's different from the other universities I've viewed? Will I get first-hand practice at, the subject I'm fighting for? So if you are doing a forensic course, say, will I get first-hand experience of doing forensics? And what are they? And if they turn around and go, well, you get, one here, one there, maybe you want to have a look a little bit more around, ask them what type of companies and people and individuals do you get in to talk to me? Even if you're a student and you think, I want more, contact us. We can give you a little bit more guidance. But I think, for me, the one thing that swung it for me when I was choosing my degree was, they said I get first-hand experience, but also the lecturers and the people that were getting in were doing some incredible current cases. I mean, the big one was Stephen Lawrence when I went through university, and one of my primary lectures was a major participant in the development of, looking into Stephen Lawrence murder, how that affected the police, how the police should evolve, and how we needed to improve. And they were primarily involved in that. To have that first-hand insight where you got to learn from the person that was writing the document, you learn so much better than you will from somebody who's reiterating a book or reading a book, because you're hearing it firsthand, you're captivated. Plus, there's always extra juicy bits that you don't hear in the book. I mean, how many stories can we give that you're never going to hear on TV or in any book? We can give you the details verbally. You can't necessarily write them down. And it's little things like that that go a long way to helping you learn and understand. The number of times that somebody would give me some first-hand, like, here's an example of when I dealt with, a decapitation. I'm hooked. Oh my God. And next thing you know, before you know, you'll come away and I've remembered half the skeletal layout. Well, how did I do that? Because I was interested, I was captivated by an interesting first-hand learning. I think that's the most important thing. And then, you want to look at the facilities. Has it got a good nightlife? Let's be honest, we all need a good pint or 10 and a few shots and a dirty takeaway at the end.
And knowing that your dorm room is pretty near to whatever
pub. Yeah, that's it. But we shouldn't do that. You should be good and you should be studying late at night and not drinking. I mean, they're the ones I would always think about. I don't know, Chris, what were sort of ones with you?
So if I was coming up with some questions, I think your one about what sets you apart from the other universities is very good. Will there be kind of practical aspects to it? Kind of maybe what kind of cases am I going to learn about? What are you going to teach me to do? So, example, are we going to cover everything from, say, fire scenes to sexual offences and whatnot, and how are we going to investigate those? For like a fire scene, I think the best way to learn about how a fire is caused and what it looks like is to set fire to something.
Yeah.
So I maybe wouldn't open with that question, like, can I set fire to something? Because the university might not welcome you in. But maybe,
don't set fire to your dorm room. So, what I'm doing forensic science. I'm working towards my degree.
I'm learning. But I think that practical aspect is very important. because that is what you're going to be doing day to day, really. I think
I know a few unis have close relationships with police forces. We've got a few colleagues of our own who I think they beat others to the post, as it were, because they'd had first-hand experience working in police environments. That goes a huge way. If you can say, look, I've already worked for a police force, to get to that stage, you've got to clear vetting. So, you've got to have a clear background, you've got to show good character, you've got to work in an environment. To understand how police forces work is a whole learning environment in itself. So to turn up and say, I did that at university as part of one of my modules, that's a great separator from you and other degree courses. So, see if your university offers you that opportunity to look into that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we'll move on to our next topic, which I think you've you just touched upon, is the application process and interview process. And so you've done your university degree. You're now ready to kind of hit the career field, make some money for yourself, and you've got that daunting process of looking for jobs, putting your name out there, applying for them, and then you get that kind of very exciting but very nervous feeling of, oh my goodness, I've got an interview now. So how should someone prepare for the application and interview I guess firstly, what can they expect from the application and interview process for a CSI?
I think first things first, applications. The best place to find an application from an external candidate's point of view is look at every police force you want to work for, or private company. So there are many companies such as Cellmark and all these other big providers out there. Look at their websites, see what jobs they're offering, and apply. From a police side of things, applications, we should probably say they're not fast. It does take a bit of time for police forces to look at them, primarily because we have so many applicants now. The job primarily, we don't want a CV, so a lot of people trying to attach a CV. Unfortunately, we don't want that. We will provide you a template online for you to fill out, and just work your way through that, be as accurate, be as correct as possible. And then the real skill primarily is in writing what we call our key skills, experience and knowledge. So you'll get a packet that will list lots of information about what the job entails. Look for the piece that says key skills and experience, and it could be about 5 to 15 different key subjects. That's what we're looking for. Don't worry about too much about the rest. Focus on those points, and just take time to evidence each piece. And that's a real skill. I mean, I've been in this job for so long, and I've only just about got it under down to a T now. So take your time, think about experiences and opportunities and learning and education that you've done that meets that, and then be concise, be succinct. My fault was always I was way too wordy. I like to write. I've just come out of writing a dissertation. I'm going to give you 10,000 words. Now reading applications when we get out of the CSIs, I don't want that. Short, to the point, bullet points work well for me, and just literally, I have this skill because I did this. So tell me what you did, and tell you how to do it. STAR is the acronym we love to use, which is what was the situation, what was your task, what were your actions, and what were your results. If you can stick to that principle within your answers, you can't go wrong.
And I think STAR is very good for the interview process. I think that's what kind of, if you're doing a competency interview, that is the model that you kind of want to be following. But for like the application process, I'd say that if it says on the application, right, now list all your skills and experience, you've got a maximum of 1,500 words, then you want to be writing 1,500 words. If they don't give you a guide, but they give you a blank A4 page to write it, or say a box that is the size of an A4 page, then you want to write an A4 page. Because I've been speaking to senior managers before, and they've literally had like that section, write a maximum of 1,500 words, and a person has just put a sentence just to say, I have a degree in forensic science, full stop, and then that was it. And of course, you might have finished university with the top grades in forensic science, but if this is the work you're willing to do on the application process, can you imagine the work that you're willing to do at an actual crime scene? So I would say that, yeah, your application process is a reflection of yourself, and that is before we can see and talk to you. So you want to sell yourself as best as you can, really, and just show us what you're capable of on paper.
Yeah, I think also the way you lay it out, part of the skill we're looking for is the ability to, convey yourself effectively in written word. One of the key skills we always put in an application. So if you're got spelling mistakes, or if it's really hard to follow your written 1,500 words or whatever it might be, that's already going to be a negative mark against you. So take time to think about, how well does this read? Does it read smoothly? Can I see the different points? So have I put enough paragraphs in? Is my punctuation correct? It seems like a silly thing, but so many people fail to do that, and you're already losing points before you've even had a chance to read it. And even though people turn up, like I've had applications like you said, Chris, where somebody goes, "I've got a degree in forensics," well, so it's the other 200 applicants. Everybody's got that. That's great, but unless you evidence it, the joy of the police is, if you've got the evidence, that the job's yours, sort of thing. We don't want a motive. My favorite application, one of the favorite applications I ever received, I can't even remember it all. It literally was pretty much along the lines of, I am amazing, I am an absolute boss, and you'd love to employ me. I am a go-getter. I'm I can sell ice to somebody in the Arctic, all that kind of really
sell ice to an Eskimo.
That's it, ice to an Eskimo. And I read it, and I sat there and I thought, I really want to give this guy an interview, because crikey, it'd be great fun, but he's not evidenced anything. There was no evidence there, and I have to give you 0. So even though you might have all this fun and everything that goes with it, unless you've evidenced it, my hands are tied. The joys of being a public sector worker is that we have processes and procedures in place to stop. I remember we go, "Oh, Adam, I know you, mate. Can I have a job?" Well, no. We don't work like that. It's not favoritism. It's not old boys club. It's all about the sweat on your brow, the ability of your work, and what you can evidence and show us. And it's a lovely, transparent system from that regards. So yeah, just remember, we don't want a motive kind of, I'm enthusiastic, can sell ice to an Eskimo. Tell me evidence, prove it to me. That's the most important, one of the most important aspects.
Definitely. I think, you've hit the nail on the head there. Proof. You need to back up what you're saying, basically. And so the interview process, I mean, it's probably changed since we've done it, because it's been so long ago, isn't it, that we've both done it. I think recently, the last round of interviews, it was competency based, wasn't it?
So my most recent interview was one for management roles, and there is now a shift. So we are still competency based, and a lot of forces are now starting to pick up the same national competency based process, which means we're going to ask you questions along the lines of, give me an example of when you did so and so. So it's very similar to your application. It's now just spoken word, and now you're conveying it in maybe a bit more detail. It gives you an opportunity to explain it a little bit more. Some forces will let you see the questions that you're going to get asked before you enter the interview. So people are often quite surprised at that. We're not trying to catch you out. It's not a trick. It's not a memory game. We want to get the best out of you. We want you to do well. That's the best bit of sitting in an interview panel when you're watching somebody. I really want you to succeed. I want you to blow my socks off. So a lot of the time we'll give you every opportunity we can to do that. And it might be, we'll ask you prompts. That's not actually going to go against you. If we're asking 15 prompts of like trying to get the point out of you, of course it will. But if I said, oh, well, what about so and so, that's fine. It's all about trying to get the best. I think interviews are the most terrifying process, and they don't need to be. We want you to do well. We want you to hear the best. The most important thing to remember is cover your point, cover your evidence properly, but it's storytelling. Tell me a story. Tell me a story of when you had to think on your feet. Tell me of a story when you've had to diffuse an argument, that sort of thing. Just tell me a story. It doesn't have to be overly complex. Just explain it. obviously part of the skill is how do you do that concisely? Because this is one of your tests. Can you verbally explain something nice and clearly? And if you listen to this podcast, you're probably thinking he failed.
You and me both, mate.
Yeah, stop waffling. It's just, don't panic too much about it. I think just tell us a story. That is really kind of the basic underlying of it.
Yeah, and I picked a trick up. So if I answer my question and I don't feel like the answer that I've give has covered, say, all the points that I think maybe the interviewer wants me to pick up on, I'll just quite simply say, does that answer your question? Or have I covered everything? And then you can kind of gauge from the interviewer's response that maybe I need to just talk a little bit more. Or, like you say, they will just give you like little prompts. Be like, well, you hadn't thought about this. Can you maybe give us an idea of this? And then that could be that little comment, have I answered your question, could end up getting you a few more marks, perhaps.
I've done that, and it's certainly saved my bacon where I've gone. On my odd one, I've got a couple of examples here. I'll start with the biggest example that I can think of, and then I'll waffle on about that. And then when I come to the end, I'll go, well, would you like to hear the second one, or do you feel like the first example has provided enough evidence? And if they've gone, oh no, that's absolutely fine, you think, brilliant. I mean, that's got to be.
Thank God, because I didn't have a second example. I was just trying to look good.
And if they go, give a second example. I think that's actually something we should say is. A lot of people I've spoken to who've done interviews, I've said, oh, how's your interview prep gone? And they've gone, well, I'm just going to turn up. You can't do that.
No.
I would spend hours writing what I'm going to say in an interview. So before you go, you're going to have an idea of what the questions will be. A lot of the time you'll be told now under a competency based, these are the certain areas we're going to test within we call it a competency framework, which is a really gumpy way of saying these are the sort of skills and experience and your key attributes we're looking for. We've put it in writing and we're going to test you on, let's say, 3 of them. And all you need to do is find an example that meets that skill or that knowledge or whatever it might be, which we've told you. Always find more than one, because sometimes they'll ask you a question, and I've done this in the past. I've been so nervous, I've given my best answer first. And then they've asked me another question. I thought, oh no, I was saving that really good one for that question. Oh no. And in an interview, you can use the same answer twice. That's another thing I found out that I was very surprised about. You can use the same answer twice. If it meets the same points, you're going to get this. You'll still get the marks. We won't turn around and go, well, you've used that example twice. That's not good enough. But it is really good to show variety, because it does show that you've got that depth of experience that we're always looking for. So always have a backup. That's kind of the principle of that one. Yeah,
and I think people will often panic because they think that their example needs to be relating to the job. But of course what you've got to remember as well is that most of the people that are going for the job aren't actually already crime scene investigators, so we might not necessarily expect all your answers that you give to be related to the forensic world. So it might be that, say, they ask, I can't think of a question off the top of my head, it might be to do with gives an example of
conflict resolution.
Conflict resolution, yeah.
There's a prime example. Well, I work in forensics, so I've not really had to have a fight with my colleagues too much, and my fingerprints don't seem to put up much of a fight. But when you're dealing with members of the public, you work conflict resolution. What experience have you got? And I think this gives us an opportunity to have a little bit of a segue. Don't think about everything we want is from your degree. If I'm brutally honest, when I'm going through an interview process, I love a degree. That looks fantastic. What I want to see is you as a human being. What extra skills and experience have you got? And sometimes the best people I get to meet are people who do volunteer work. People who have had experience. I've had people from kind of the Samaritans. I was a special constable, so for those who don't know, I was a police officer, but I stupidly volunteered and didn't get paid to do it. I did that for 5 years.
But you don't get the paperwork, do you?
I didn't get the paperwork because they saw the quality of my paperwork. That was a skill on that one.
Which for the tape is a lot better now.
Obviously, these little things you do outside of your degree or outside of your education are sometimes as important, if not more important, than your degree in itself. If you can turn around and say, I've got life experience, work experience, working in a certain aspect of a police force or another emergency service or anywhere, even if it's working in Topshop, for example, communication with customers, dealing with customer complaints, all these sort of things are going to be so valuable in your interview, more so than, I've got a really good degree and I'm super intelligent. Intelligence is an amazing thing, but when you've got somebody screaming at you, trying to punch you in the face, and you've got to kind of diffuse them with your spoken word, that's a whole nother set of skills, and that's a really important thing to have. I should probably say that not many people try and punch us in the face. It's more about actually getting information out of people. Extreme example I can think of.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes there will be that conflict because perhaps maybe, say, a member of the public, their expectations haven't been properly managed. They've been promised that, say, a crime scene investigator is going to turn up, and don't worry, they'll turn up and they'll catch who it was. So don't you worry. And then we're faced with that awkward scenario of actually we've recovered all the evidence that we can, but for whatever reason it doesn't look like the case is going to progress any further, and that might generate a bit of conflict. And then you've got to use your kind of spoken words and the way that you communicate with people to, say, avoid that from becoming a kind of different kind of situation, I guess. So like you said, you can be the most intelligent person in the world, but if you've got no communication skills, or if you've got no common sense, which I've met a lot of people that are so intelligent but they've got no common sense.
I mean, I had a burglary early in my career. I was maybe like first year, maybe second year. I went to a burglary, didn't expect anything, knocked on the door swung open, and I wandered in, and I found the occupant at his dining room table with a knife to his throat, and he was in the process of trying to commit suicide. And I've got to say, no amount of my degree or any training, literally you kick into, here's my communication skills. And I spent 2 hours talking him down.
Wow.
To the point where I could get my phone out my pocket without him hurting himself, so I could call for more help. So that's the other thing, I didn't even. There's so many different ways to deal with it. When you join the police, you get all the training to deal with these sort of things, but it comes down to, how can I communicate with this person? If you say the wrong thing, it could trigger in a negative way. It's about kind of trying to understand that person's needs, and I think that's what I look for in an interview process. I'm not expecting somebody to turn around and say, well, I walked into a house and found somebody trying to commit suicide and I could talk them down. I'm not expecting that. But what I want to see is somebody that has an understanding that communication or life skills are just as valuable as the educational aspect of your career. So just think about that as well. If you're going into an interview and you think, I focused 100% on my degree, I've not actually feel like I've got much life experience, look for it. So many people want volunteers. You can go down to your local charity shop and volunteer. It will give you fantastic opportunities to meet people from different ethnicities, different backgrounds, rich, poor, whatever it might be. Everybody's different, and you'll soon realise what an amazing kind of opportunity it is to learn more. So it's not all about your degree as well.
No, but an amazing thing you did there, Adam. And it just kind of shows the kind of people that we're after, really, is those people that have got a sensitive nature and care about other people. Just have good morals, really, is what we're after.
I'm not gonna lie, crap my pants.
I bet.
I've never wanted to call somebody so bad. Not be able to.
Yeah. But then, if immediately you panicked and hit the red button, then he could have seen that, and you don't know what you've done. He was alive at the end of it, so what you've done is perfect.
We got him all the help he needed, and he got specialist care that he wouldn't have got normally. I think from the NHS, they struggle so much. So sometimes we can, we're not all about catching bad guys. Sometimes it's about helping people who are vulnerable and need help. It's good. It was a good day at the end.
Oh, good. Well, I think that kind of wraps us up today. We've spoke a lot. But I hope you've all found this interesting, and it's kind of better prepared you if you're about to go to university, or if it's given you the kick up the backside if you've got your GCSEs coming up. Do you want to add anything before we go, Adam?
No, I think we've covered it off. I mean, the only bit I was going to say was about your gap year. I think I thought I'd put this in because I've still got flashbacks to when I said to my parents, I'm going to take a gap year. My dad was like, yeah, I get that. Good for you. And my mum freaked. If you take a gap year, you're never going to go to uni. You're going to get a job and you'll like money and then you won't want a degree. I don't know. I think take a gap year. If you do, I think use it, maximize your, that year off. I became a special constable. I ran around catching bad guys, learning things that you never thought you'd learn. Other people go on traveling, awesome. What an amazing life experience that is to meet people from all around the world. Even if it's just to work to pay for university, make it an opportunity to take something new and something different. I think, just don't be scared of a gap year, I think is what I'm getting at. But also, if you decide not to take a gap year, it's no bad thing. I'm just fighting for all my people out there who are nervous about telling their parents they're going to take a gap year and worried about their mother freaking out. It's all good. It's all good. Mine freaked out and it all worked out for the best in the end. So, happy days.
Definitely. Oh dear. But I guess if you went travelling or something like that, it would benefit you for work. Perhaps you get a job out there and you'd be working with people of different ethnicities, and you'd have to perhaps pick up another language or accommodate your language to help out. So a gap year could really give you that life experience.
You're very optimistic they're going to learn language. They're going to Australia. You're going to work on a really hard nappy winery, and then you're going to be drinking stubbies and tinnies as hardcore as you can, get a cracking suntan, and then you come back. That's what we all do.
Yeah. See, I never had my gap year, so I don't know.
So you're the good boy who went, straight into hard work, hard
graft. Yes, I went in. Maybe, I'll get to about 50, and then I'll need my gap year. And then I'll be halfway up a mountain and think, why didn't I do this 30 years ago?
That's called a midlife crisis, mate.
Yeah. I'll just do what everyone does and get a convertible. Oh dear. Well, on that note, everyone, I hope you enjoyed it. Catch us soon for our next topic, whatever we decide to cover. And stay safe. This is crime scene investigator Chris G signing off. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed listening. Be sure to subscribe and follow my social media at CSI Chris G. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the next crime scene. It sounds fine where I am.
Sounds fine.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. That's cool then.
Yeah, you might just have babies screaming in the background.
It's fine, man. These things happen. Hey, you're a real person.
Yeah.